Most kids probably wake up to the sound of an alarm clock or the smell of breakfast cooking. Maybe, if they're really lucky, they get woken up by their parents with kisses and hugs and all the things parents are supposed to say to make their children believe it's going to be a great day. My sister Beatrice mostly knows waking up to the beeps of hospital machines and doctors poking at her during their morning rounds. And since I spend almost every minute next to her, that's mostly all I've known, too. "I'm just going to take your temperature," a nurse whispered to Beatrice. It was barely light enough in the room for me to see that Beatrice was already awake and sitting up. After 10 years of the same routine, your body starts to anticipate the disturbance, but that doesn't make it easier. Beatrice waved good morning to me. Then she opened her mouth for the thermometer and uncovered her arm from her blanket so the nurse could wrap a blood pressure cuff around it. Everything was a sad reflex. "How long have you been awake?" I asked her. "Maybe an hour. I'm so excited I couldn't sleep." Beatrice was getting discharged today, which was a pretty big deal since she hadn't been home in almost 2 weeks. The nurse smiled at Bee's enthusiasm, but I've dealt with hospitals long enough to realize her smile wasn't one that expressed any agreement with what Beatrice said. Instead, it was just full of pity. My heart sank. "Bee, you could have woken me up," I said. "We could have talked instead of you just sitting alone in the dark." "It's okay. You looked like you needed rest." I laughed. Sometimes Beatrice sounded more like my parent than my 10-year-old sister. Hospitals are an easy place to lose track of time. The rooms only have one small clock, and you try your hardest not to look at it because then you'll know exactly how much of your life you've spent in this place, which is a scarier reality than the reason you're even in the hospital. For Beatrice, it was pneumonia again. My sister has a disability called spinal muscular atrophy. She was born with it. There's a whole bunch of medical jargon that goes along with SMA, but the idea is Beatrice has weak muscles. She's never walked and probably won't ever walk. And SMA affects her respiratory system, which is common from what her doctors tell us, hence all the pneumonia. Anyway, the nurse finally left, and before there was even a moment to get my bearings, the doctor came in and flipped on all the lights. The fluorescent bulbs made sure I was definitely awake. But that's how mornings are in the hospital. There's no time to hit the snooze button or slowly come to your senses while watching cartoons. One moment it's silent and all the patients are sleeping, and the next it's a full-fledged, non-stop business. "How are we feeling today, Miss Beatrice?" Dr. David asked. He was flipping through her chart and didn't even acknowledge my presence, which I actually liked. All of his focus was always on my sister. "I feel great," she told him. "I'm ready to go home." "Yeah, I bet. Let me take a listen to your lungs." Bee followed every order to take a deep breath in, cough, and breathe normal. After a few repetitions, Dr. David took the stethoscope out of his ears and wrapped it around his neck. I believed Bee when she said she felt better. I mean, she's been sick enough that she really understands her body. At least that's what other doctors have said, including Dr. David. But after he finished listening to her lungs, he had almost the same expression as the nurse. Dr. David looked at me. "And how are you, Reed?" "Fine." I kept my answer short. I knew he was stalling. Dr. David noticed my foot anxiously tapping the floor. He sighed. "Fair enough." "So what? Am I getting discharged today?" Beatrice impatiently asked. "Your labs show that the infection hasn't fully gone away. And when I was listening to you, I heard a lot of congestion rumbling."